Is it reasonable to make my wife go buy a $10,000 wedding dress, even though we're not getting married, just so I can fuck her in it?
Hello and welcome to the Pillow Talks podcast. We're your hosts, Vanessa
and Xander Marin.
I'm a sex therapist with over 20 years of experience.
And I'm just a regular dude. We share the ups and downs in our relationship while giving you step-by-step techniques for improving yours.
Make sure you subscribe for your weekly double date full of totally doable sex tips, practical relationship advice, hilarious and honest stories of what really goes on behind closed bedroom doors, and so much more. It's the sex education you wish you'd had. Today, we are tackling the question, is this reasonable? So we turned to our Instagram community and we said, is there something that you have been wanting from your partner, but you're just not sure if it's a reasonable request to make of them?
Can you even ask that?
Yeah, like, is that okay for me to ask that? Is it okay for me to want that? Or maybe it's the other way around and your partner made a request of you, or there's something that they want from you and you're left wondering like, I don't know about that. So we asked for stories like this and we got a lot. Some good ones. I'm so excited to dive into some of these examples because they are truly fascinating. We were looking for ones that like kind of above and beyond. You know, obviously we got a lot of like, oh, I want to have more sex, or like I want us to have date nights. But we got some like very unusual ones that I'm very excited to break apart.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line is a lot of people are sitting on things like this, sitting on things that they kind of want, needs that they have, requests that they have, desires that they want to ask but aren't. And let's talk about how you actually take some action on that, whether that action is having the conversation or the action is deciding that maybe this is unreasonable, and see if there's some other ways to get what it is that you are wanting. But before that, we're going to get into this week's review of the week. Reviews are the best way to help our podcast grow. They go so far in helping new people to the podcast realize that, hey, this is a real legit podcast. You know, it's worth listening to compared to all the other hundreds and thousands of podcasts. Hundreds of thousands is probably more like it. Podcasts that are out there. What we do to thank you for leaving us a review. And by the way that you do that is it has to be an Apple Podcasts. Go to Apple Podcasts, go to the main Pillow Talks page, scroll all the way to the bottom, and you'll see the review section there. So just smash that 5-star button and then leave us a short review. It doesn't need to be an essay, just a quick to the point review. And if you hear your review read aloud in a future podcast episode, you have won, and we will give you a free masterclass. So all you have to do is DM us on Instagram or email us at info@vmtherapy.com. Can't get enough. I've never been into podcasts until now. Vanessa and Xander popped my cherry, and I can't wait to hear more. My friend sent me their Instagram site, and once I found out about the podcast, I listened to all episodes within 2 months.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah, that's really impressive. It not only helped my sex life, but helped me as an individual sexually and emotionally. I've been with my partner for 6+ years, and we just got married a few months ago. Our spark after having a kid 2.5 years ago majorly depleted. This podcast helped me help myself in feeling more comfortable within my body and exploring new things with my now husband. Thank you, Vanessa and Xander, for being vulnerable with personal experiences. It makes it so much more relatable and safe, and for the invaluable advice and all the jokes.
Oh, thank you so much for this delightful review.
I love that. And for anyone that is into competition out there, let's see if you can listen to all our episodes in less than 2 months.
Okay, so let's get into these stories. I'll read the first one. I want my wife to role play as a friend of hers.
Ho ho! I'm seeing these for the first time right now, by the way. How come we never do that for you, actually? It's always me that's getting surprised.
Well, this is kind of more like this is my work task, preparing us for these episodes. But we can trade off for a week if you want to. I would love to be surprised, actually. Okay. I'm already one line in and I'm hooked. Okay. She is grossed out by the idea, which I understand and accept. I'm wondering if the request is reasonable. It's not an integral part of my identity. just a turn on to think about other women in my life who seem to be attracted to or turned on by me. This is by my assessment and my wife's assessment. Wow. Okay, so it's not only that you want her to role play her friend, but you also think the friend is attracted to you too.
And that's why you want to role play it. Because it's like more realistic, I guess.
Oh, okay. Xander, is this a reasonable request for this man to make?
Okay.
I have a strong opinion.
I think, okay, this is a reasonable request to make, but it is unreasonable to expect your wife to say yes. I think it is highly unlikely for her to say yes unless she is somehow turned on by this idea. And that's why
she could be.
Yeah, she could be, which is why I'm saying, it's reasonable to make this request.
Mm-hmm.
It's reasonable to shoot your shot. We always advocate for, when you are getting into a serious relationship, when you are getting married, when you are having these like relationship milestones to define the bounds of your relationship and kind of what is on the table and what is off the table, rather than this default assumption of monogamy, because monogamy, even just the term, isn't exactly clear what that means. One could argue that it is totally monogamous to only have sex with one person and yet role play having sex with other people. Other people would be like, no, that is not monogamous. So, I think that, I would advocate having talked about this earlier on and like, is this type of thing on the table or off the table? Assuming you've never had this conversation, it's reasonable to say, hey, I want to know if this is something that you might be into or open to. But you should expect that there's a high likelihood that your partner is going to be like, yeah, I'm not into that idea. Like, not only am I not into it, that feels icky or maybe unsafe or like boundary violation to me.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with you here. I think just about any sexual desire or fantasy between consenting adults is fine. There is nothing wrong with being turned on by this idea, by being curious about exploring it, like nothing wrong here. That being said, I don't think the likelihood of finding a partner who's willing to do this is very high. Like that is sensitive. Like role playing your friend and feeling like, I mean, let's be real though. For some people, this would be a big turn on. Millions of Americans grind or clench their teeth at night,
including both of us.
But most don't even know they're doing it. I actually found out that I was a teeth grinder from my dentist. They were doing a cleaning and like, hey, do you know that you grind your teeth? And I was like, no, I don't. And they're like, yeah, you do. And it's causing damage.
Oh, yeah. Same for me, except they told me for years and years and years, and I refused to believe it until it started causing me tons of problems.
Yeah. I mean, it can erode your enamel. It can lead to broken teeth, really expensive dental bills. So the solution to protecting your teeth is a mouth guard. But the problem is mouth guards from the dentist can cost you $500 to $800. And we have paid for those before. It is painful, which is why we are so excited to introduce you to our brand new podcast sponsor, Remy. Remy makes dental grade professional quality mouth guards without the painful price tag. They are up to 80% cheaper than what you'd pay at the dentist, and they don't require you to visit a dental office. So we thought this was so cool. They sent us at-home impression kits to test out. So what you do is you create molds of your teeth. It's super simple. They walk you through exactly what to do. But you create these molds, you send them back in the mail to Remy. You've already got like prepackaged, prepaid for postage stuff. And then their dental team makes your custom fit guards and sends them right back to you. Their guards are so comfortable to wear, most people forget they're even wearing them. So if you're worried about like, oh my God, I've got to sleep with something, is this going to be uncomfortable? It is absolutely not uncomfortable. And they've just really made the process so easy. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to get an appointment with your dentist. You just literally mail it in and wait for it to get mailed back to you. And if you're feeling at all uncertain, they have a 45-night satisfaction guarantee. So you can try it risk-free. Sleep better, decide if it's the perfect fit. If not, Remy has got you covered.
Yeah, that is so huge because that's one of the biggest issues that I had when I was first using night guards. Go to the dentist, I'd spend all this money getting the mouth guard made, and then it didn't feel comfortable. And then I felt like I was in this horrible position of like, it's going to cost me so much more money to go back to the dentist and get this thing fixed. if I'd had that opportunity of a 45-night satisfaction guarantee, oh my God, I would have started doing this so much sooner.
Remy is for anyone dealing with nighttime grinding, clenching, or jaw pain who wants an affordable solution to protect their smile and say goodnight to jaw pain and headaches. Head to shopremy.com/pillow and use code PILLOW to save up to 50%. That's 50% off at REMI.com/pillow with code PILLOW. Give your teeth a break without breaking the bank with Remy. Thank you, Remy, for sponsoring this episode. Like, yeah, this feels exciting. It feels naughty. It feels taboo. I think for the majority of people, it would probably feel pretty sensitive. Like, wait, are you into my friend? And I kind of think my friend's a little bit into you. Like, I think the majority of the people are probably not going to be into it. But again, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the desire with making the request, as long as he, made it in a kind and respectful way. So there's nothing wrong with that. But she's not going to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to this, I forgot that at the beginning, this person is saying she is grossed out by the idea. Like they've already made the request. So I think that it is unreasonable to continue requesting that. I think that you have your answer. And it's great that you're saying I understand and accept that. I mean, I think that at this point, knowing that I don't know how you made this request. I can think of a number of ways to make this request, in as a respectful way as possible. I can also think of a number of ways that one could have made this request that would have felt super icky. And so I'm not sure how you, the person asking this, made this request. It might be worth circling back with her to just try to clarify, to make sure that she really understands that you understand and accept what she said. You understand how you can absolutely see how that feels gross, and probably clarifying for her, because I'm sure that she is wondering, like, do you actually want to hook up with my friend? Like, is that like, are we role playing this because that's really what you want, but you know that you aren't supposed to do that? So I think it would be really important for you to clarify for her, like, what this is about for you. And, assuming that you don't actually want to hook up with her partner, just trying to explain that, oh, this is something that like sounded hot. It's not actually something I want to do in real life, kind of, like.
Well, but to be clear, also, if it's something that you do want to do in real life, like, that's okay too. Like, you could have a conversation with your partner about opening up the relationship, about, having some sort of ethical non-monogamy. There's nothing wrong with that either. But again, it's a request that you're making of your partner, not a demand that you're making.
Yes.
Can you give examples of like what would be icky ways to make this request versus okay ways to make the request?
So I think that like icky ways to do this would be like bringing this up in the moment that you are starting to get intimate, or like in the middle of sex or something.
Like springing it on your partner.
like springing this on your partner. Like that's going to feel, that it's just going to feel gross if it's happening in like a heightened
Stacy right now.
like in a heightened moment, because then it's like either it's going to result in like the sex ending right there and it being like, oh, like kind of like a gross out moment, which is gonna be problematic down the line, like possibly like triggering down the line, or your partner, because I think very often in the moment when we're like turned on or we're wanting to please our partners, your partner might be more likely to say yes, or like consider doing it and do it and then kind of regret doing it afterwards. So that is not a good time to bring this up. Versus, on the flip side, I think the most respectful way to bring this up is at a totally neutral moment and say like, hey, I want to ask you a question about something that like I'm into, or something that I think I would be into and would love to gauge your openness to trying, and then lay it out for them, and really lay it out with a lot of context. Like, whether it's something that you want to try, but you don't actually want to try in real life, or like getting really honest, if it is something you do want to try in real life, like, saying that so that it is clear to your partner, they're getting all the info going into it, rather than leaving it open for interpretation. All right, let's move on to our next one, Vanessa. Is it reasonable to ask my partner to limit masturbation? He gets home before me every day and oftentimes will masturbate, usually to porn, which is another thing I've asked him to limit for the same reasons, and then either not want to have sex if I initiate or not be able to come. It's also frustrating because I don't have the option as he is always home when I am, so I typically initiate before masturbating. I've asked him to sometimes involve me, text me about it, or share a bit about what turned him on, or to wait for me to get home sometimes. I don't know if it's just a normal thing for men to masturbate a lot, but I feel like it interferes with our sex life. Specifically, porn, I feel, desensitizes him from sex with me, and he oftentimes has performance issues, maintaining an erection or finishing, even if he hasn't already come that day. But he has no issues when he is masturbating. He says he masturbates and uses porn about once a week, but I feel like it is likely more.
January is all about fresh starts, and it's a great time to swap out the skincare products weighing your skin down in favor of a regimen scientifically proven to transform your skin at the cellular level, something today's sponsor, OneSkin, knows all about. Their products are powered by OS1, a proprietary peptide that the four founders, who are all skin longevity scientists, developed after testing 900 other peptides, and it's scientifically proven to switch off the aging, dysfunctional cells that cause lines, wrinkles, and thinning skin. OneSkin's products are packed with nourishing ingredients to naturally boost collagen, reduce inflammation, and protect skin from environmental stressors while being free of unnecessary irritants like sulfates and fragrance. If you're ready to detox your routine, improve your skin health, and look your best, head on over to oneskin.co and use code PILLOW at checkout for an exclusive 15% off your first purchase. Make 2025 the year you invest in habits that keep you and your skin healthier at the cellular level. Now, I have to tell you, I have been using OneSkin's products for months since they started becoming a podcast sponsor. I wanted to try them out beforehand, and I have been really loving the impact that I'm seeing on my skin. But recently, we went on a trip, and I had just run out of my bottle of OneSkin, so I didn't have any to pack with me.
Uh-oh.
And my skin, I have these really sensitive areas like right on the sides of my nose that tend to get irritated, dried out, like very red. And almost right away, like when I stopped using it, that irritation came back. I actually haven't had it in months because I've been using their products like really religiously. I've been so happy that I haven't had that irritation this winter, and I just couldn't believe that it came back so quickly. So I'm very excited to share about OneSkin with you. Founded and led by an all-woman team of skin longevity scientists, OneSkin is redefining the aging process with their proprietary OS1 peptide, the first ingredient proven to help skin look, feel, and behave like its younger self. Get 15% off with code PILLOW at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code PILLOW. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support Pillow Talks and tell them that we sent you. Invest in the health and longevity of your skin with OneSkin. Your future self will thank you. Oh, wait. I was kind of picturing this going a different direction. If it's just like once a week, I was thinking this is an everyday kind of thing. So that last line trips me up a little bit. But in general, I would say I think it is definitely reasonable to ask your partner to be thoughtful about their masturbation habits. So my perspective on masturbation is that we all get to have our own unique personal relationship with our own bodies. Just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean you're not allowed to masturbate anymore. That being said, when you're in a relationship, masturbation can get in the way of you connecting with your partner, which it sounds like is the case here. This person is saying like, I want to be having sex. I want to be like involved in the masturbation at the very least. And their partner is just like not really receptive to that. She's choosing masturbation and porn over being intimate with the person writing this in. So in that case, like, yeah, if it is getting in the way of your sex life, I do think it's something that you can and should talk to your partner about potentially decreasing. Again, it does trip me up a little bit that it's only happening like once, but I think they're saying like, I think it's happening more than.
I was having the same confusion because this person is saying, he says that he does it about once a week. But then the way that they are describing it is it sounds like this is a consistent issue.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be too random if it's like every single time I want to have sex, I come home and it happens to be the one day a week that he decided to do this. So it is not necessarily reasonable to like set some kind of like day limit. Like, okay, you are only allowed to do this X number of times a week or X number of times a month, because then you're just going to argue over the logistics. And this guy's he's already saying, oh, well, it's only once a week. Because like in theory, if this is only happening once a week, I would think this is probably not actually impacting you very much, because then 6 out of 7 days, it's not happening.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is it seems to clearly be impacting your sex life. Like it's impacting like his desire to want to say yes to you when you initiate. And it's impacting his ability to perform when you guys
That's the other
when
big
you guys
issue.
do have sex. So like there, honestly, I think that it's actually reasonable for there to be a couple different requests within this, which is like, one, it is very reasonable to say, hey, it's feeling like your masturbation is impacting our sex life. I'm getting turned down a lot when I initiate because you've already done it earlier in the day. And so I'm not understanding like why that is happening. And I would like us to prioritize having sex together over masturbation. So, I think it would be reasonable to even say, like, if you're wanting to masturbate when you get home, can you ask me? Like, can you tell me so that I have an opportunity to say, hey, I'd actually like to have sex when we get home. So could you not?
Could you not?
So could you not?
Yeah, my general rule of thumb is that when you're thinking about masturbating, invite your partner to be intimate first. It doesn't need to be 100% of the time. This is not a like set in stone rule, but in general, it's a good idea to just check with your partner first. So that way you're prioritizing the intimacy between the two of you.
Yeah. Now, another one is this person also mentions that I think what they're saying is like that it's frustrating because they themselves don't have the opportunity to masturbate at home because their partner's always home when they are home.
That's a different request
So
you can make.
Yeah, so that's a different one. If you are like, hey, I want to be able to masturbate, like, well, one, like, don't let your husband being home stop you. I think if you want to be able to masturbate and say, in a situation where perhaps you have initiated and he said no, that might be worth having a conversation about, hey, in those situations, like, I want to go in the room and masturbate because, I know you're doing that. And like, I want to be able to have that relationship with my body too. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. So if that's something you want, I do think that it's very reasonable for you to, I mean, it's not even reasonable. Like, it's not like you need to request that you are allowed to masturbate.
Yeah.
There's no rule. It doesn't sound like there's any rule against that in your relationship. But like, that's a conversation to have. And then the third one, I think, is perhaps his masturbation and or porn usage is impacting his ability to perform outside of masturbation. And that is another issue that I think is very reasonable to make a request about. I don't know exactly what the request is, but it's like, it's important for the good of our sex life that you figure out what is going on with your relationship with porn and masturbation, and whether that's getting some help to do it less or to stop doing it or to masturbate in different ways so that it doesn't impact your ability to stay hard or to finish when we are together. Because it's a classic sign of like desensitization from, I don't know, death grip, from porn, from whatever.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, I would say this is a totally reasonable request.
Highly reasonable. Lots of reasonable things that you could request here or just do here, like your own masturbation.
Okay. Here's our next one. Is this reasonable? I do not want to be talked to during my shower.
Okay.
My husband and I have been married for 5 years. We have 2 kids under 6, and we both work from home. We're together all the time, and then when the kids are home, it's full-time parenting from us both. But let's be real, moms just take more of the parental load. So when it's time for my shower, it's the only peace I have. It's exhausting having 2 kids and a husband constantly need you all day and talk to you all day. I only have 2 ears. So when I take my shower, I want silence. I've told my husband many times that I don't want to be talked to when I'm in the shower. Any conversation can wait. And it's always about pointless things like sports, his stuff, or stupid memes I don't find funny. Like, can you not wait until I'm out? Am I being unreasonable?
No. Not at all. I think this is a totally reasonable request.
I love this one. Don't talk to me in the shower.
I know. At first I laughed. And at first when I saw the little subject line on this one, I was like, this is ridiculous. But this actually makes perfect sense to me. Mm-hmm. And it seems totally reasonable. I mean, honestly, I love a solo shower. And sometimes you're in the bathroom and it's not necessarily as relaxing as when I'm just hanging out there on my own.
I didn't know you like a solo shower. You're always trying to shower with me.
Sometimes it's nice to shower with you.
I get it. I get it too hot.
Yeah, you do get the water really hot. And I think it's really just because I'm taller. I'm like a foot taller. And so the water is hotter higher up.
So one of my goals recently has been to incorporate more protein into my diet. I've just been reading so much about the importance of protein, and especially for women who are, 40 and over. We really need that protein. But if you've ever tried to increase your protein intake, it's actually a really big pain in the ass sometimes. Like, there's only so much meat that you can eat. So that's why I'm really excited to introduce you to our new podcast sponsor, Orgain. Orgain is famous for their organic plant protein powder. It packs 21 grams of complete protein with all 9 essential amino acids. All Orgain products are made with USDA certified organic ingredients, so you're getting the nutrition you need without the things we all need to avoid, like soy ingredients, artificial sweeteners, flavors, or preservatives. So it actually kind of cracked me up when Orgain reached out to be a podcast sponsor, because I have used their products for a very long time. I was actually vegan for a couple of years and then vegetarian, and I was trying to get more protein into my diet at that time too, but it's really hard when you're vegetarian, and especially when you're vegan. I tried every freaking protein powder, and let me tell you, some of them are real nasty. And it's very frustrating to buy an entire tub of protein powder and then you try one sip and you're like, this is terrible. I can't do it.
Yeah, that sucks.
But Orgain's plant protein powder was one of my favorites. And I bought it with my own money all the time. So it's like a little full circle moment that they've come back into my life now. So if you want to get some more protein into your diet this year, then definitely check out Orgain. And what I also really appreciate about them is that they know there are no quick fixes when it comes to your health. They're not promising anything crazy, no over-the-top claims. I know, especially at this time of the year, we're seeing so much wild fitness and nutrition stuff out there, but they're just over here trying to make some good quality, good tasting protein powder. So if you want more protein, give Orgain organic plant protein a try. Head to Orgain.com/pillow and use code PILLOW for 30% off your order. That is the best offer you're going to find, but you have to use our code PILLOW for 30% off. So for 30% off, head to Orgain.com/pillow and use code PILLOW. That's Orgain.com/pillow.
Yeah, no, so I totally understand this. And it is, okay, set the shower aside. It is 100% reasonable, and not only reasonable, required that as a mom or as a primary parent, primary caregiver, that you have some amount of alone time. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, it is going to adversely affect your relationship with your partner. Mm-hmm. It's actually going to be bad for your partner. So you need alone time. It sounds like you have found the shower to be the alone time that you want. And so not only is it totally reasonable to say, hey, I need to have this alone time. Mm-hmm. It is non-negotiable. It's totally reasonable for you to say, yeah, and that's going to be in the shower. Mm-hmm. I would say, if you have locks on the doors, get in the shower, lock the fucking door.
I agree. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, just lock the doors. Don't let him come in. Don't let that man in.
Yeah, that's your bathroom. It's your shower. Get in that shower. Have your alone time. And hey, and I say take a couple extra minutes to yourself.
I totally agree. Yeah, this is completely reasonable to me. It makes a lot of sense. This is something we hear about from parents all the time. You're just in go mode. People are needing things from you all day long. You don't get very much alone time. You don't get time to take care of yourself. So for a lot of parents, a shower feels like the last remaining thing that you have. And so I fully support locking the door, not letting anybody come in, and just taking that time for yourself. But yeah, I would definitely like loop back around to the husband and say, look, I think it's really sweet that you want to connect with me, that you want to talk to me. Because honestly, I don't think that the husband means anything malicious. He's probably looking at this as like, oh, my wife is alone, the kids are away, like maybe this is a little bit of time for connection for us. So I think he's probably approaching it in honestly in a sweet way, like trying to be like, oh, hey, it's my time to like show you some funny memes and stuff like that and like talk to you. So I don't think he's trying to bother her, but he's clearly not getting that like she really needs this to be her own time. So I would talk about the two of them creating their own little ritual of time. So maybe it's like, you know, hey, as soon as the kids are in bed, we're going to spend, 10 minutes doing silly memes and catching up about our days. Or, we're going to go out on the porch and have a glass of tea or a glass of wine and, whatever it is. Like make your own little ritual, but make it clear to your partner of like, I really need this time to just like be by myself, come back home into my own body, find my patience, all that kind of stuff again. So like, yeah, I really need to do this by myself.
All right. Our next one is a doozy, babe. I wanted oral sex from my partner. We are a female-male couple. He is great with receiving from me, but has never reciprocated. I asked in the early stages of our relationship, and he said he just liked us both to be able to enjoy sex at the same time, so he didn't do it. And now, much, much later in the game, months, I recently asked him about it again, and he said that he actually associated it with his ex-wife as it was something that he had only done with her. I asked if we could try it, and he hesitantly said yes. I said to him that I could shave very short to make this more appealing for him, but he still seems hesitant. When I asked him how he would feel if I never gave him oral again, he said he would be sad, and I said, same. We have yet to explore this, and I don't know how to approach it after our conversation. Is this reasonable to ask him for it again?
Absolutely. So far, we are all like, these are all totally reasonable requests. It is totally reasonable to request the same thing of your partner that you willingly and gladly give to them. We hear this one so often, and it honestly boils my blood a little bit that we women are so socialized to believe that we don't deserve the exact same things that we are giving to our partners. Like, there is nothing different about going down on a woman than going down on a man. Like, you deserve to experience this. So absolutely, it's reasonable to ask, and I would encourage you to keep asking, keep talking about it. The whole thing about the ex-wife, that is the most bullshitty excuse I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, no, that's the unreasonable part.
I associate it with my ex-wife, completely unreasonable.
Yeah, that is not a reasonable reason to not have oral sex.
You could say that about anything. Like, oh, well, my ex was the last person I had sex with, so I associate... my ex was the last person I went on date night with, so I associate date nights with my ex. Like, get out of here, bud. But here's my hunch. I think that he is hesitant to do it because he's not confident in his skills.
That's really what's behind most men's hesitancy.
Yeah.
That or just real bad socialization.
If you don't feel confident in your skills, you don't feel like you know what you're doing or how to give your partner a good experience, like, of course, you're going to feel nervous and hesitant and like, well, I don't want to look like an idiot. I don't want to try something if I don't think I'm going to be any good at it. So I think that that's likely what's coming up for him. And so I would encourage you guys to check out our ultimate foreplay guides because those will teach you exactly what to do by the set so that you get oral sex and manual stimulation for both men and women, and that way you can both like learn together, and it really takes any sort of stigma away from it, makes you both feel like excited and sexy exploring together.
Yeah, I mean, I would even go as far as to say that like this is like grounds for breaking up with someone. Like you have to think, you have to think about, is this something that I'm willing to, like, because at this point, is this something I'm willing to put up with for the rest of my life? Am I willing to put up with no oral sex and not only none of it, but like a partner that wants me? At least he's not saying like, you have to give me oral, but a partner that absolutely wants oral, but is unwilling to give it. Because I think you have to ask yourself, is that going to come up in other areas of your relationship too? Is this the type of attitude that I'm willing to put up with in a partner? And if it's not, then I would I would have a real serious conversation with them and say, hey, like this is probably going to become a deal breaker for me with our relationship. Now, if it is not a deal breaker and you're like, man, this would really suck, but I guess I could deal with that. Like, then, yeah, it wouldn't be unreasonable for you to say, all right, I guess oral is off the table for you. If if it's not, unless it's something you really enjoy giving and you want to give regardless. But yeah, if that feels like it's something that's going to create resentment or feel super unfair, then it is also totally reasonable to say, okay, yeah, well, we're just going to take this off the table until you're willing to do it with me.
Yeah. I mean, I do want to say there are some exceptions where people have totally understandable reasons why oral sex is not something that they feel safe or comfortable doing. And in those cases, though, I really don't think it's fair to expect your partner to give it to you. It's like there's got to be some fairness here. If you're not willing to give it, then you should not receive it. Yeah,
like it would be a very different story if it was like, hey, I was in a super abusive relationship and my ex-wife like forced me to give oral, and so like it's a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
For me, if you're like, oh, I was married to someone and they were the only person I did this with, like, I mean, if we were all using that rationale for not doing things, like the moment we had more than one relationship, like we would be totally screwed in that next relationship because you would have had done a lot of the things that are important for relationships in the first relationship. So yeah, I mean, if that's true for him, he's got to go to therapy and like talk through this.
I don't think
it's really true. I think it's just an excuse.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. My wife and I have been married for almost 5 years. I've always been turned on by women wearing wedding dresses.
Okay.
My wife being no exception.
Well, that's good.
So I was really looking forward to sex on our wedding night. For a variety of reasons, not the least of which was me not communicating clearly about being excited about this part of our newlywed experience. Good on him for taking some responsibility here. We didn't have sex on our wedding night, instead having sex the next morning after the dress was already safely back in its garment bag, where it has remained until this day. My question, is it reasonable for me to ask my wife if she'd be willing to get the dress out of the closet for a wedding night reenactment? It seems like it would be a big hassle for her, but it is also a big fantasy for me.
Oh, this is so cute.
I love this
I think this is totally reasonable. This is such a, I don't know, like
so cute.
It's like a low barrier for entry kink or fantasy.
Yeah.
Like you already have the wedding dress. You're not asking, because like some people might be like, hey, we're not married, but like I have this like, wedding dress fetish, and so like, is it reasonable to make my wife go buy a $10,000 wedding dress, even though we're not getting married, just so I can fuck her in it? And, hey, I mean, depending on your financial situation, that could or could not be unreasonable. But this is like the stakes are so low. You already have the wedding dress. Yeah, she has to put it on. Maybe you could help her. You'd probably get turned on by helping her with that. I mean, I'm guessing what it is for you is it's putting her into the dress and then taking her out of the dress, right? So she's going to have some assistance, and yeah, like who's going to be like, oh no, I don't want to ever put that thing on again.
This is one of the most pure, sweetest fantasies that I've heard.
I love it.
Like to be turned on by women in a wedding dress.
Should we try this, babe?
Cute. I mean,
we got your dress.
I actually, if this was a fantasy that you had, I would be so happy to fulfill this for you.
Yeah, I would. I'm thinking that it isn't a fantasy for me, but I'm thinking that we should try it anyway because we didn't have sex on our wedding night. We intentionally had sex the morning of our wedding,
which was such a hack. I loved it.
Yeah, because we knew that by the time the wedding night came around, that we were the likelihood of us having sex, and especially the likelihood of us having good sex, was extremely low. And that was 100% the right decision, because we had our wedding, then we had a wedding after party, and then there was a wedding after party.
Yeah.
And I don't think we got home till like 5 a.m. And we had to be at the airport the next day for a flight to Tahiti quite early. Yeah, sex would not have happened. But
if you had a wedding dress fetish, we could have made it happen.
Yeah, man, I'm curious. You know what? My gears are turning. It's been so long. I don't even remember what you looked like in the wedding dress. So we should try this.
Do you remember what my wedding dress? Could you describe it?
It had lace.
Yes. You were real hesitant about that, though.
No, it had lace. I know that. And I could find some photos.
What else? One other description of it.
I don't know.
Nothing.
It had straps that were like this wide.
Okay. All right.
Oh, she's impressed.
I mean, the bar is pretty low.
How would you describe
Tell me two
it?
things about my wedding dress. It was form-fitting. It had a very open back.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. It had a really pretty, but very small train.
That's right. Well, let's create some new memories. Let's create some new memories in this wedding dress.
It's honestly not that big of a pain in the ass. Like, wedding dresses are big. Getting them out of the garment bag, I mean, it depends, though. She might have had a real big dress. You can have some big ones. But it's not that big of a pain. I would want you to be a little bit careful to, not rip it or stain it.
Yeah, I think
Can you imagine, bringing it to the dry cleaner and being like, can you get this cum stain out of my wedding dress, please?
Yeah, no, yeah, I guess the question is, yes, are you wanting to undress her and then have sex with her? Or are you wanting to have sex with her in the wedding dress? Like, that might be...
I think in the wedding dress.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Just be a little bit careful.
Yeah, just be careful. Also, another thing to consider, think about what's going to turn you on here. Like, would you possibly be turned on by, buying another just cheapo wedding dress? That's like your sex wedding dress.
Your sex wedding dress.
Well,
You're not gonna buy a whole ass tacky cheap dress just to.
I mean, if this is a huge turn on for you, and you want to do this regularly. It's like instead of lingerie, it's like it's a wedding dress thing. I'm just making suggestions here, but yeah,
you started your advice saying this is such a low barrier to entry. You don't have to buy anything. Now you're telling him to buy something.
I'm just saying, okay, if your wife is like, oh God, but well, if she's like, I don't fit into the wedding dress anymore, or I'm worried about ruining it or something, then suggesting something like that is a possibility. But I think I would just be careful to when you raise this request or describe this fantasy that you are very clear, just like you were for us, of look, I did a real bad job of not communicating this when we got married. This would have been such a simple thing for me to just say in the moment, hey, you know what? I'm super turned on by the idea of having sex with you in your wedding dress, as soon as we get back to our room. I didn't do that. And so that is 100% on me. I'm sorry that I didn't do that. I'm so glad that we had sex the next morning. That was super hot and exciting. And there's a part of me that is missing the experience of having done that. And I'm curious if you would be opening to just busting that dress out and letting me fuck you in it.
Yeah, I would not be too nervous about making this request. I think there's a very high likelihood that she's going to think this is so sweet and it will not be a tough ask to make.
Yeah, I mean, she might be super into it too. You could even talk about hey, is there any fun role play that we could do in this dress that would feel
just
romantic
don't have to
or
role
sexy?
Play her friend.
Yeah,
the bridesmaid.
Do not
maid
do
of
that.
honor.
Yeah, do not do that.
I mean, you can do that, but just be gentle about how you bring it up.
All right, we got one more. I bought a card game for my husband and I. One of the questions was, what about me turns you on? I gave a nice thought out answer. His response was, everything. I lightly pushed for a little more. Instead, he just said, I don't know, you just always turn me on. I asked him to be a little more specific because I wanted to feel wanted and special. And he said, I don't know, I'm not good with words. It was such a teenager fuckboy thing to say. So I just said, let's come back to that question later because that hurts that you can't name one specific thing that turns you on about me. I feel like I'm not special, like anyone could be in my place. Is it reasonable for me to want an answer?
Man, we're 5 for 5. I think these are all reasonable. I think it's totally reasonable to want an answer to this question. And I really sympathize with this person. I would be pretty bummed out too if you couldn't name a single reason why you were turned on by me. But I want to give the husband the benefit of the doubt here because sometimes people just feel a little put on the spot, and it's hard to like come up with an answer. And then especially if your partner's like, hey, why can't you come up with an answer? You're kind of like, the doubling down gets you more anxious and even more of a mental block comes up. So I'm hoping that that's just what happened here, that he was just struggling to like come up with an answer because of the anxiety, not because he's like, oh, I don't know, not really anything gets me turned on by you about you. So I'm going to hope that that's what happened here. So I would definitely recommend, like she said, let's come back to the question later, but it sounds like she never did. So I would definitely recommend coming back and saying, hey, have you thought any more about that question? I would really love an answer. Or I would maybe even like text that to him ahead of time to like just give him a little bit more time to think about it.
Yeah, like I would love I would love an answer to that question. I would, we're going to talk about it tonight at this time or something like that, so that he has a whole day or number of hours to actually think about it, rather than, hey, come back to this when you have an answer. And then it's like, he goes, okay. And then a couple days go by and like he conveniently forgets.
Yeah. The whole like, I'm not very good with words, that is something that we hear about from men a lot. And I do think it's important to recognize that men get so much shitty socialization about not being in tune with emotions. Men are not supposed to feel emotions. So therefore, if you're not supposed to feel them, you never develop the vocabulary for being able to describe them. And a lot of men like just are living these really shut down, sad lives where they're not able to like really fully describe things. So I want to have some compassion for this guy. Because again, I don't think that he's doing this to be an asshole. Like he's not saying like nothing about you is sexy. He's just like struggling to put it into words. And so that could be a really interesting kind of secondary conversation to have together of like, hey, what is it like for you when you're, I'm asking you to describe like deeper or more meaningful or emotional things, and it's hard for you to come up with an answer? Or like, how were emotions treated in your family growing up? Did you guys in your family, did you ever ask each other like these deeper questions, or were most of the conversations in your family pretty surface level? Like this could be a great opportunity to get to know each other better, and to also like, it's okay for your partner to say, I'm not very good at words. Like, I'm not good at this emotional kind of stuff. That's fine for them to say it, but there also needs to be a desire to get better.
Yeah,
like,
it's not an excuse for just not doing it. It's
fine
I'm
to
be
not
like,
good at it, so I'm never going to do it ever in my entire life.
Yeah, it's fine to be like, hey, I'm really struggling with this right now because this is something I don't feel very good at, or because I don't have a lot of experience doing this. So let me think about it. And get back to you, rather than being like, I'm not good at this, therefore I'm excused from needing to do this. And, he could also be worried that this is a trick question. And I think that this is more and more likely the more times you've brought this up, the more the more that you say, hey, I really want an answer to this, or like, hey, why haven't you given me an answer? He might be thinking, oh, there must be some very specific answer that you are looking for, because in his mind, he probably feels like, oh, well, I already gave an answer. I said everything, even though it's not a good answer.
Yeah, I do think that a lot of men, when they get questions like this from women, like they have this tendency to think it's a trick question.
Yeah, it's a trap.
And to be fair, sometimes we do ask questions like that, unfortunately.
Yeah, so if that's actually what's going on for you, then maybe it's not reasonable to. But assuming that that's not the case, and assuming that, he's just sort of gotten into his head, like he probably feels backed into a corner. Like, oh, I thought I gave an answer, and then she's saying it's not a good enough answer. And I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm saying this is how he might be feeling. He's like, well, okay, well, I answered it, and oh, well, it's not a good enough answer.
Yeah.
Oh, she really wants an answer. Oh God, she must really want something specific. Like, this is a test. I don't know how to pass the test. Yeah. So it's better to avoid it's better not to take the test than to fail the test. I think that is what goes on deep down in a lot of guys' brains in situations. I know this has happened to me many times in the past. This is something I catch this is like a thought process or dynamic I catch myself in still. I think it's kind of hardwired into our brains in some ways. And so he might be thinking, well, okay, like, he might have a couple examples of like maybe like physical traits, because I think a lot of guys will jump to physical stuff, as like, oh, what turns you on? He might be like, oh, yeah, well, I have a bunch of physical answers to that. But she's going to say that that's too shallow, or she's going to think that that's, the only thing I care about is what she looks like. And that's going to be hurtful. So I can't say that.
Yeah.
So, I think that it's important for you, the person asking this, to be like, hey, there's no wrong answer to this question. There's no wrong answer. It could be something physical. It could be something emotional. It could even be a specific example of a time I was super turned on. Like, I think that could be a really helpful way to get him out of that like trap mentality.
So today we've had actually a lot of fairly reasonable requests that you can make of your partner.
There have been some unreasonable things that partners have been saying, though, like behind the scenes within the questions.
There were some pieces of unreasonableness
there's
in this episode,
been plenty of
sure.
unreasonableness.
But you know what is a super reasonable thing to request from your partner? 10 minutes a day to prioritize just the two of you. I can't think of a better way to start 2025.
Yeah, that's where your best week ever comes in. It's a cheat code to connecting more deeply, loving more fiercely, and having the best sex of your life.
Your best week ever is a simple 7-day experience to help you and your partner reconnect emotionally, sexually, and intimately. After 20 years of working in the sex therapy field, helping thousands of couples, I took everything I learned and created a wildly effective program to guide you through the 5 secrets to lasting intimacy in just 1 week.
And we've really made sure that this is a quick but powerful reset. So think of it as your fresh start to your best year ever. You're going to be blown away at how just a few days can totally transform your relationship. So ready to bring the spark back tonight and forever? Go to vmtherapy.com/best.
Reconnecting doesn't have to be hard or overly time-consuming. It just takes some intention and a little focus. And we are here to guide you every step of the way.
Here's exactly what you get with your best week ever. So you're going to get 7 days of flirty, playful, totally approachable activities that you'll feel actually excited to do, plus conversation starters to help you get back on the same page and feel closer than ever. And insights from a licensed therapist, that's Vanessa, for way less than what you'd spend on one single therapy session.
Your best week ever is designed to give maximum impact for minimal effort. Let's be real, it is so easy to slip into the daily grind of life and really deprioritize our relationship, let it fall into the back burner. But now is the perfect time to make some space for each other again. And we have made it so freaking easy. 10 minutes a day, 1 week, your relationship is totally worth it.
Yeah, so go to vmtherapy.com/best and get started for just $29.
Tell us your relationship is not worth $29. That is way less than a single date night out, way less than a single couples therapy session.
It is unreasonable.
What?
to say that your relationship is worth less than $29.
Oh, I was like, what's unreasonable? Yes, it is unreasonable to feel like your relationship is worth less than $29. We want to help you get back to feeling like an unstoppable team in and out of the bedroom. This is kind of a no-brainer, right?
And when you sign up for your best week ever before January 15th, you'll also get the sexual bucket list for free, and that usually costs $29. That's our guide to creating a judgment-free atmosphere for exploration, so you can get what you really want in 2025. Go to vmtherapy.com/best and start your best week ever today. Plus, score the sexual bucket list for free.
Well, that is all for today's episode of Pillow Talks. Thank you so much for listening. Join us again next week when we talk about purity culture. Redoing the whole thing. Cut the whole thing.
Yeah.
Dramatic, the end of response. Okay.